Why do people cheat? Most explanations lean on morality, personality, or culture. But underneath the stories, beneath the culture, beneath the surface, there's a quieter engine running the show. Biology. When you look at infidelity through that lens, a pattern appears. Three signals sit at the center of the story: estrogen, cortisol, and serotonin. At Apophenia, aka this channel, website, and forum, we examine behavior through this lens. The architecture of hormones that shape desire, attachment, and compulsion. Estrogen, cortisol, and serotonin act not as villains, not as excuses, but as regulators. And when we map them against gender, patterns emerge. Patterns that explain the most common cheating scenarios, not as mysteries, but as biological inevitabilities. Estrogen, the regulator of reproductive attention. Estrogen is often misunderstood. We're told it's the female hormone, a driver of fertility, reproduction, and mood. But in reality, estrogen is a regulator, a signal that tunes the brain to notice. Under the stress paradigm, estrogen amplifies sensitivity. In women, that means attention to social cues, status, and the subtle markers of attraction. In men, that same estrogenic sensitivity amplifies novelty-seeking, the pull toward what's new, different, and stimulating. Here's what this means for cheating. When estrogen is elevated, the brain's filter for salience shifts. A glance from a stranger suddenly feels more meaningful. A conversation that should be casual carries weight. The ordinary becomes loaded with possibility. In women, high estrogen phases correlate with an increased responsiveness to social attention. She doesn't just notice that someone else is paying attention. Her brain amplifies the reward of being noticed. Compliments land harder. Flirtation feels sharper. Validation feels essential. In men, estrogen often interacts with testosterone and dopamine, creating a craving for novelty. This is where the stereotype of men pursuing something new comes from. Estrogen primes the male brain to shift from stable satisfaction into exploration, novelty, and conquest. This isn't morality breaking down, it's the brain being chemically tuned to treat attention and novelty as urgent. And when you place that tuning inside a modern environment, constant access to digital attention, constant novelty in dating apps, endless signals of attraction, the potential for cheating isn't just temptation, it's baked into the system. Cortisol. Stress is the fuel for betrayal. Next is cortisol, the stress hormone. We tend to imagine stress as something that makes people withdraw, shut down, or lose desire. But in reality, stress often does the opposite. It accelerates craving. High cortisol sharpens impulsivity. It shortens the time horizon of decision making. Instead of thinking about long-term consequences, the stressed brain seeks immediate relief. And relief in the realm of relationships often means escape through attention, intimacy, or sex. In women, cortisol can drive dissatisfaction inside stable relationships. A woman under high stress may interpret her partner's inability to soothe her system as a failure of intimacy. This opens the door for another figure, someone who provides attention, novelty, or validation to temporarily regulate your stress response. What feels like attraction is often cortisol pushing her to seek relief. In men, cortisol doesn't just generate relief seeking, it amplifies risk taking. A man under stress is more likely to gamble, to push boundaries, to seek thrills. Cheating in this context becomes a form of stress regulation, a way to feel alive, to feel agency, to override the dull weight of chronic stress. That's why so many affairs erupt during periods of life chaos, financial instability, career stress, the birth of children, or midlife crises. Cortisol tilts the brain towards short-term escape, and when combined with estrogen's sensitivity to novelty or attention, cheating becomes not just likely, but almost scripted. Serotonin, the trap of false stability. Finally, serotonin. Unlike dopamine or cortisol, serotonin is usually framed as the feel-good chemical. But in reality, serotonin is about stability, rigidity, and hierarchy. And here's the paradox. Low serotonin is adaptive. High serotonin, on the other hand, creates rigidity and the illusion of stability. It makes people double down on behaviors that reinforce social bonds and hierarchy, even if those bonds are shallow or toxic. In the context of cheating, high serotonin can manifest as someone who appears loyal on the surface, while secretly rationalizing betrayal as deserved, justified, or necessary to keep balance. In women, serotonin dysregulation often shows up as restlessness, a constant feeling that the relationship is never enough. She may cheat not for sexual novelty, but to stabilize a social imbalance, validation, status, or reassurance. A man with high serotonin may present as calm and socially bonded, while quietly engaging in affairs that reinforces perceived hierarchy or control. The orchestration, how hormones create cheating scenarios. Now, when you put these three together, the most common cheating patterns emerge. Scenario 1, the stressed woman. Her cortisol is high, her partner doesn't regulate her stress effectively. Estrogen amplifies her attention to outside validation. Someone at work notices, compliments, listens. And serotonin dysregulation creates restlessness, a sense that she's missing something essential. The affair doesn't feel like betrayal, it feels like survival. Scenario 2, the novelty-seeking man. Estrogen pushes his brain toward novelty, amplifying the thrill of new. Cortisol adds risk-taking, the willingness to gamble a stable relationship or a fleeting reward. He rationalizes cheating as an outlet, a way to relieve tension, not as an abandonment of loyalty. Scenario 3, the social betrayal. High serotonin creates rigidity, a woman or man who appears committed, bonded, loyal, but estrogen quietly tunes attention toward external cues. Cortisol spikes under unspoken dissatisfaction. Cheating occurs not out of lust, but out of a subconscious need to stabilize an internal imbalance. Status, validation, or control. Scenario 4, the midlife crisis. Cortisol chronically elevated from decades of stress. Estrogen amplifying sensitivity to novelty. Serotonin dysregulated, creating restlessness and dissatisfaction. The affair isn't about attraction, it's about escaping the pressure of identity, rediscovering agency in a body that feels cornered. The biological reality. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Cheating is not simply about desire. It's not about willpower. It's not even about morality. It's about how hormones regulate stress, attention, and novelty across gendered systems. Together, they orchestrate the most common betrayal patterns, not as accidents, but as predictable outcomes of biology under pressure. Most conversations about cheating stop at the surface. Morality, culture, excuses. But if you want to see the real architecture, the pituitary cascades, the cortisol floods, the estrogen amplifications, the serotonin traps, you need to step outside the slogans. Apophenia is a forum built for this, understanding human behavior through biology, not pop psychology. Cheating, addiction, compulsion, identity, all of it traced back to the stress systems and hormonal patterns that drive us. If you want to see how it fits together, there's a free document waiting in the description below. And if you're ready to step inside, Apophenia is open. Because once you understand the system, the illusions collapse. And once they collapse, you'll never look at human behavior the same way again.